All right, fans, welcome back to the second half of tonight's Rwl Rage from Gainesville, Georgia. Don Hickson, Christy Ogilvie, and Myron Schimmelman here with you. And we've got 4 big matches in the run-up to Monday, the 26th combined Snarl and Rage Memorial Day card.
Myron.
Yeah?
This schedule says we got Georgia Washington and Dynamite Jeannie Parker in a non-title match.
That's true.
Wow. You really have had a great week with the booking guy.
Hey, Christy, I don't like to toot my own horn, but I don't think I did too badly this week, if I gotta be honest.
Yes, that match between the Yankee Rose Miss Georgia Washington and Dynamite Jeannie Parker will be happening a bit later. But right now, in our second half opener, it's Jake the Snake Roberts, backed by Rockin' Robin, facing primetime Bobby Mills, backed by Big Bob Duncombe.
Welcome back, fans. Our second half opening contest is scheduled for one fall with a 15-minute time limit. Coming down the aisle, along with Rockin' Robin, from Stone Mountain, Georgia, weighing in at 243 pounds, here's Jake the Snake Roberts.
When you're talking about mainstays in the Legends division, you're talking about Jake the Snake Roberts, most recently the former RWL No Rules champion until Magic relieved him of the title. But Jake the Snake Roberts is immutable. He continues, he moves on, and he's on to his next match against primetime Bobby Mills, a match that has never happened before to the best of my knowledge.
You're absolutely right, Don. It hasn't happened before. But primetime Bobby Mills has made so much progress, it was time to move him up a level. Time for him to face somebody real, somebody genuine. So, Jake the Snake Roberts it was.
Jake's got all the experience on his side, against Primetime's 4 years with RWL. Let's see how much experience Primetime's racked up in those 4 years.
His opponent, along with Big Bob Duncombe, from Pineville, West Virginia, weighing in at 238 pounds, here's primetime Bobby Mills.
Well, as the old Meatloaf song says, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Primetime Bobby Mills, Big Bob Duncombe, and absent again this evening, Dirty Dutch Mantell, preferring to allow Duncombe and primetime Bobby Mills to handle this situation all by themselves, and they are certainly more than capable. And so we begin tonight's second half with another heretofore unseen matchup between 2 opponents. As referee Willie Johnson rings the bell, here we go. Jake the Snake Roberts swings and misses with the clothesline. So does primetime Bobby Mills. A whole lot of air flying through there. Jake the Snake Roberts. Whoa, look at this. Has him up over. Oh, man. That was a gruesome arm drag. Jake the Snake Roberts rounds up primetime. Primetime counters with a right. A kick to the midsection from Jake the Snake Roberts and a double axe handle takes primetime down to the canvas. Primetime Bobby Mills executing a very nice fireman's carry. Jake Roberts brought back to his feet. Snap mare from primetime, followed up with a kick to the back. Jake the Snake with a clothesline takes primetime out onto the floor, right in front of Big Bob Duncombe. Jake the Snake Roberts really working the crowd here in Gainesville. Jake rolls out, comes back in. Primetime Bobby Mills catches an elbow to the face. Jake Roberts escorts him to the ropes, and whoa, here we go. Jake Roberts yanking that arm against those ropes. Jake the Snake rounds up primetime Bobby Mills. Has him all the way up and all the way down into a vertical suplex. Jake Roberts rounds up primetime Bobby Mills. Winds up the arm again, and whoa, that looks so painful. And a nasty arm drag. Jake the Snake Roberts with a decided home field advantage, the Stone Mountain, Georgia native here in Gainesville. Jake Roberts driving his knee into the back of primetime Bobby Mills against that draped middle rope. Roberts and primetime tussle. Primetime shoves him away. Primetime Bobby Mills has him up and drops him just as hard. Primetime rounds up Jake. Into a dragon sleeper, an elbow across the back of the head, a kick to the midsection, a clubbing overhand right, and down goes Jake the Snake Roberts. Primetime Bobby Mills trying to regain the advantage here. Jake Roberts up against the ropes, delivers an elbow to the head, swings and misses with the clothesline, catches a kick from Primetime Bobby Mills, whipped to the far corner. Jake the Snake Roberts turned around by Primetime. Jake counters and escapes the corner, delivers a kick to the midsection, and now driving that knee into the chest of Primetime Bobby Mills. Rockin' Robin, watching her brother work here, running bulldog to Primetime. Primetime Bobby Mills now on the receiving end of some bad business here. Jake the Snake Roberts catches a right from Primetime, a flying shoulder tackle, taking Jake Roberts down. Whoa! What a nasty suplex from Primetime Bobby Mills. A quick jab from Jake the Snake Roberts. He's got him up, he slams him right back down. Jake Roberts has him. Whoa, what a backbreaker. Primetime Bobby Mills having his face gouged, but Jake the Snake Roberts delivers a right to the midsection. Primetime with a belly-to-belly suplex on Jake Roberts. Now, Primetime Bobby Mills with a shoulder claw on Jake Roberts. Gets slammed down to the canvas again. Primetime Bobby Mills starting to press the advantage here, trying to rally some support from the fans. Running clothesline from Primetime, followed up with a second one. Jake Roberts swings and misses with his clothesline and ends up in a power slam. Primetime Bobby Mills catching an arm drag from Jake the Snake Roberts. Jake countered with a shot to the midsection. Primetime Bobby Mills setting up something here. Whoa, look at this right here. Oh, what a gruesome shoulder breaker from Primetime Bobby Mills. Primetime drags Jake Roberts center ring and going for a cover. 1, 2. But no, Jake Roberts kicking out of the pin. Primetime Bobby Mills rounds him up to a standing position. Jake Roberts counters with a forearm. And a knee to the skull for Primetime Bobby Mills, and down he goes. Jake Roberts countered by Primetime, a clothesline, taking him down. Primetime Bobby Mills indicating to the fans that he is all right, although he is busted open. Primetime Bobby Mills countered by Jake the Snake Roberts into a dragon screw. Jake the Snake rounds up Primetime. Primetime counters with a shot and an elbow. Jake Roberts whipped to the far corner again. An elbow to the head for Primetime. A kick to the midsection for Jake. Jake counters with another kick, misses with the clothesline. Primetime Bobby Mills gathers him up. Whoa, what a headbutt right. Oh man, Primetime Bobby Mills caught all of it. A knee to the skull, and down goes Primetime again. Rolls out of the ring for a brief reset. Brings himself back on inside. Jake the Snake Roberts. Oh, here it is. There's the DDT. And this might be a wrap right here. Jake the Snake Roberts choosing to round Primetime up instead of going for the pin, possibly an unwise decision. Jake Roberts countered with a kick to the midsection. Primetime misses with the shoulder tackle and catches a kick to the midsection from Jake Roberts. Jake the Snake rounds him up. Primetime counters again, whips Jake Roberts to the far corner. Jake the Snake Roberts counters with a kick. Primetime countering with a hard right. He's got Jake Roberts up, front slam from Primetime Bobby Mills, who has definitely taken quite a beating. Jake Roberts drags center ring again. Primetime covers. 1, 2. But again, no, Jake the Snake Roberts just managing to get her shoulder up. Rockin' Robin looking a bit concerned for her brother on the outside here. Jake Roberts with a kick to the midsection and a double axe handle, dropping Primetime Bobby Mills to the mat. Primetime winds up the arm, and a clothesline takes Jake Roberts down. A whole lot of back and forth in this encounter. Jake Roberts with Primetime out there on the apron. Jake Roberts rolls to the outside, misses with the double axe handle. Primetime Bobby Mills rolled back inside the ring. Jake follows him on in. Primetime Bobby Mills with an elbow to the head of Jake Roberts. Primetime's got him all the way up. Long vertical suplex. Takes Jake Roberts down to the canvas. Jake Roberts rolls out onto the floor. Jake stands himself up. Referee Willie Johnson starts the count. Here comes primetime Bobby Mills, elbow to the face. Jake Roberts rolled back inside the ring. And here comes primetime Bobby Mills, and he is stalking Jake the Snake Roberts. This may not bode well. Whoa, hard right spins Jake around, and Cobra clutch from primetime Bobby Mills. He has got it locked in. That is it. The referee is calling the bell. Jake the Snake Roberts is out, and primetime Bobby Mills wins this upset match by submission.
Here's the time, 7 minutes and 58 seconds. Your winner by tap out, primetime Bobby Mills.
You know, guys, we've already seen a couple of upsets tonight, but I think this one takes the cake. Primetime Bobby Mills with an upset win over Jake the Snake Roberts, and by submission, no less. Wow, I don't even know what to say.
If you don't know what to say, I do. I won't diminish Primetime winning this match at all, but I do know this much. You don't embarrass Jake in his home state and expect everything to be peachy keen cookie crunch. Don't be surprised, Myron, when Jake comes knocking for a rematch with Primetime. I'm sure Jake won't rest till he drops a genuine snake on the chest of a fallen Bobby Mills.
And we'll be right back with more Rage right after this. Well, alright, at some point we had to see a match that we have seen previously, and this one's it. Angie Angel Guns and Rosita of Next Gen facing the new RWL Women's World Tag Team Champions Wendy O and Nikki Judas Hardcore, the Angels of Anarchy.
This next non-title ladies tag team match is scheduled for one fall with a 20-minute time limit. Approaching the ring, along with Sophie Spartan from Juarez, Mexico, Rosita, and from New York City, Angie Angel Guns, they are Next Gen.
For about 10 years, Next Gen has had it in for the AOA, and they've whipped on each other back and forth the whole time. And it doesn't sit well with Angie, Rosita, or Sophie Spartan that the Angels are now the top thing in the ladies tag division. I'm sure Next Gen would love a shot at them for those belts, but American Powers has to have their rematch against the AOA first, something Patty Powers and Liberty Belle Danielle have been waiting for almost a month now.
Hey, look, when it comes to the AOA, nobody is happy that they are the champs. The fans would love to see almost anybody else in that spot, because the AOA, extremely unpopular.
So it's gonna be Angie and Rosita against Wendy and Nikki Hardcore, with each team's number 3 gals standing ringside. And you'd best believe, this one's going to get out of hand at some point. I just hope Angie and Rosita don't get themselves too roughed up. Then Angels play hard.
Angie Angel Guns and Rosita coiled and ready to strike at the Women's World Tag Team Champions, the Angels of Anarchy.
Their opponents, along with Heather Hardcore from Glen Falls, New York, Wendy O Hardcore, and from Salt Lake City, Utah, Nikki Judas Hardcore, the RWL Women's World Tag Team Champions, the Angels of Anarchy.
It's mad ironic, guys.
What is?
For more than 10 years, the Angels of Anarchy have been striving to get themselves some championship gold, and now that they have, they're even more hated now than they were before. It's a lot of reasons, first being their unpopularity, then taking the belts from the extremely popular pair of American Powers, and several other things that kinda don't stand out to me just now, but point is, until those titles change hands. The AOA is catching lots of heat from the fans, the locker room, just everywhere.
Which is why everybody's hoping American Powers will get the titles back on the 26th at the Memorial Day card. But, of course, that remains to be seen.
This should prove an excellent precursor to the title rematch on Monday the 26th, as Rosita and Wendy Hardcore start this match off. Willie Johnson sounds the bell. Here we go. A kick to the midsection from Wendy. A counter right from Rosita. Rosita with a kick to the midsection, and boom, Solita del Sol right there. Nicely done. Wendy Hardcore shoves her back. Quickly back up on her feet, swings and misses with an overhand right, catches the kick from Rosita. Here we go, rebound off the ropes, but nobody home, as Nikki Judas Hardcore is tagged in. Rosita catches an arm drag from Nikki Judas Hardcore. And always ever present, standing at ringside, Heather Hardcore, the number 3 in the Angels of Anarchy. Rosita being stretched by Nikki Judas Hardcore. Nikki sets her up. Whoa, brainbuster. Nikki Judas Hardcore slams Rosita down, one clothesline. Wow. Nikki Hardcore takes herself all the way up to the top turnbuckle, and here we... Whoa, what a beautiful crossbody, and here's a cover. But no, too close to the ropes. Nikki Judas Hardcore returns to stretching the arm of Rosita. Rebounds off the bottom rope for the senton, but again, nobody home. Rosita out of the wave there, and a double stomp to the arm of Nikki Hardcore as Rosita beats it out of town, and here comes Angie Angel Guns. Angie with a kick, a right, a chop, a kick, takes Nikki Judas Hardcore down to one knee. Drives a knee into the midsection of Nikki Hardcore, rebounds off the middle rope with the same crossbody that Nikki Judas just executed. And now look at this. Crossface right middle ring. Nowhere for Nikki Judas Hardcore to go. Nikki Hardcore drives an elbow into the face of Angie Angel Guns, gets back up on her feet, delivers a kick to the midsection, locks up Angie. Nice hip toss. Uh-oh, Angie Angel Guns in trouble here. Nikki Judas Hardcore rebounds off the ropes. And whoa, look at this. Whoa, catches a couple of knees on the moonsault. No dice for Angie Angel Guns. Here we go. Angie whips her out over onto the top rope and onto the apron. Nikki Judas Hardcore counters with a right, and an enziguri takes her down to the floor. Angie Angel Guns slides on out. Wendy Hardcore going to get involved, and she's going to regret that choice. Slammed into the lip of the apron by Angie. And now look at this, Angie Angel Guns, ready to take on all three of them. Goes after Heather Hardcore. Look at this. Russian leg sweep. Takes her down, delivers a couple of rights to the face of Heather Hardcore. Unknown as to why. Nikki Judas Hardcore misses with a couple of knees, gets pitched halfway across the ring. On the outside, the referee continuing to count. Heather Hardcore stunned. A hard right spins Nikki Hardcore around, and here we go. Whoa! A wicked kick to the back from Angie Angel Guns. Angie resuming her attack on Heather Hardcore. Heather Hardcore backing off. Backing off big time. Angie Angel Guns rounds her up, drives a knee into the skull of Heather Hardcore. Perhaps to discourage possible interference, a hip toss from Nikki Judas Hardcore. Nikki stalking Angie, rebounds off the ropes. Spinning neckbreaker to Angie Angel Guns as Wendy Hardcore is tagged in. Angie Angel Guns back on her feet. Heather Hardcore is out of town. Metaphorically, spinning back fist from Angie. A series of shots. Wendy Hardcore counters. Heather Hardcore back on her feet on the outside. Angie pitched by her hair halfway across the ring by Wendy Hardcore. A dragon screw from Angie. Wendy Hardcore starting to really catch it as Angie Angel Guns starts delivering kick after kick. Takes Wendy Hardcore down to the canvas and begins stretching both arms and shoulders of Wendy Hardcore. Drives both knees into the back of Wendy. And given the history of these two teams, you had to expect this match to be confrontational. Angie with a flying fist to the head of Wendy Hardcore takes her down center ring. Angie steps out. Here comes Rosita. Rosita moves in on an up, out of it. Wendy Hardcore. Rosita drives a knee into the arm of Wendy, delivers a kick to the back. Rosita gathers her up, a kick to the face. And now Rosita escorting Wendy Hardcore to her team's corner, head first into the turnbuckle. Here we go. Look at this rebound off the rope, and whoa! What a kick to the head. Followed up with a moonsault that didn't quite connect. Rosita catching a couple of knees from Wendy Hardcore instead. Whoa! Wendy Hardcore trying to yank that arm out of the socket, winds it up, slams her down. Rosita laid out on the mat. Wendy Hardcore stretching the arm of Rosita, the same as Nikki Judas Hardcore had done. Wendy up on the middle rope, drives both knees into the midsection and follows it. Whoa! Double knees to the midsection from Wendy Hardcore as Nikki Judas Hardcore makes her way inside. Rosita laid out and in big trouble. Whoa, a senton off the ropes from Nikki Judas Hardcore. And look at this. Whoa, how about this here? A handstand headlock on Rosita from Nikki Judas Hardcore. Nikki Hardcore locks Rosita up. Rosita goes behind, lays in a surprise with an inverted DDT to Nikki Hardcore. Follows it up with a kick. As Rosita makes her way out, here comes Angie Angel Guns again. Angie moves in, locks up Nikki Judas Hardcore, whips her to the far corner, and starts driving knees into the midsection of Nikki Hardcore. Followed up with a boot to the chest. Oh man, look at this. Angie Angel Guns rebounds off the ropes, and there's a face wash for Nikki Judas Hardcore. Again, Next Gen and the Angels of Anarchy. Whoa! Off the middle rope. Beautiful moonsault from Angie. A series of hard rights to the head of Nikki Judas Hardcore, followed up with a stomp to the midsection. Next Gen and the Angels of Anarchy. Heated enemies. Angie covers one. But Wendy Hardcore right there to break it up. Rosita shows Wendy Hardcore the outside and follows her on out. Oh, this is going to be catastrophic. Rosita rounding up Wendy Hardcore on the outside. Nikki Judas Hardcore follows her on out. Angie Angel Guns goes. Whoa! Top rope open, taken down. Heather Hardcore, this one has gotten psychotic. Nikki Judas Hardcore goes after Rosita, takes her down with a clothesline. Heather Hardcore catching a beating from Angie Angel Guns. Wow. Nikki Judas Hardcore moves in to rescue her blood sister here. Sets it. Whoa, what a nasty leg drop from Nikki Judas Hardcore on Angie Angel Guns. As Rosita continues to battle with Wendy Hardcore. Oh, they believe they've broken it up. Heather Hardcore just catching all kinds of hell from Angie Angel Guns. Nikki Judas Hardcore finally. Oh, what a shoulder breaker. Angie rolls herself back in. Nikki Judas Hardcore with perhaps a little inappropriate showboating at the present time for the fans in the front row. And Nikki catches a kick to the head. And whoa, another from Angie. Angie steps out. Here comes Rosita again. Wendy Hardcore tagged in. And wow, this one's gotten wild. Rosita spins her around with a hard right, sets it up, inverted DDT to Wendy Hardcore. Rosita quickly going around, delivers a kick to the back of Wendy Hardcore. And just like that, she's out and back. Angie Angel Guns is back in. This one's been frenetic. Wendy Hardcore counters Angie. Crucifix from Wendy Hardcore. A kick to the midsection to Angie. And whoa, slammed down hard. Angie Angel Guns counters Wendy, gets back up on her feet. And here comes Rosita. And here comes Nikki Judas Hardcore. With the partners all changed, here we go. Rosita sets it up. Whoa, spinning slam. And Rosita steps out again. Here comes Angie Angel Guns. Next Gen working very efficiently. Whoa, wicked kick to the face. And I think Nikki Judas Hardcore's out. Here's a cover. 1, 2, 3. That is going to do it, ladies and gentlemen. Next Gen defeats AOA by pinfall.
Here's the time, 10 minutes and 9 seconds. Your winners, Angie Angel Guns and Rosita, Next Gen.
Well, that one was definitely a ride. And I don't mind telling y'all, I'm just tickled that Next Gen stuck it to the AOA before their title rematch. Damn, I bet Angie and Rosita are wishing hard that match had been for the Women's World Tag Belts. But again, Angie and Rosita will just have to wait their turn. But let's say the unthinkable happens, and the Angels retain the titles. That's gonna leave the decks cleared for Next Gen, and they'll almost certainly beat the Angels again.
Coming up next on Rage, ladies division competition of the highest possible order as the Yankee rolls Miss Georgia Washington gets set to lock it up for the first time ever with the Queen, the Women's World Champ Dynamite Jeannie Parker.
Georgia has definitely been getting attention since she first showed up late last year, and while she's met a lot of big name stars, this is her first matchup with the Women's World Champion, and while the title isn't up on the block tonight, Georgia knows that a win here would be a massive deal, one that would almost guarantee a shot at Jeannie for the belt at some point in the future, but people who have beaten Jeannie Dynamite have been few and far between. Doesn't mean she couldn't, but Georgia's odds are way, way long.
I call it difficult, but not impossible. Georgia Washington's racked up quite a number of wins since she made her debut last year.
All right, well, at this juncture, it's just the Yankee Rolls awaiting the Women's World Champion.
Jeannie joked to me earlier. She knows she's gonna beat Georgia because tonight, she said, was the perfect time. Something about the ancestors being awful busy lately, and the fact that it's Georgia Washington, who she really doesn't care for a whole bunch.
Her opponent, from Richmond, Virginia, she's an RWL dual champion, and the reigning RWL Women's World Champion, the Queen, Dynamite. Jeannie Parker.
The Women's World Champ, 1/3 of the Ladies Tag Trio Champions Les Femmes Fatales, Jeannie Parker. 10, 12 years of this business. An incredible run as Women's World Champion. Next month, it'll be 7 years. Unprecedented.
And she never fails to show up looking splendid, Jeannie Dynamite. Every inch the champion. Well, between Georgia Washington's ambition and Jeannie Parker's dislike of said Georgia Washington, sparks are gonna fly here. Willie Johnson rings the bell. The ladies come center ring. Jeannie Parker locks her up. Georgia Washington counters, goes behind. A Russian leg sweep takes Jeannie Parker down to the canvas. Jeannie back on her feet. Georgia Washington right there. Rounds her up. A knee breaker. Georgia catches a kick to the head. Jeannie Parker back on her feet again. Drives a knee into the back of Georgia Washington. Off the top rope. Whoa, what a senton. Jeannie might have hurt herself doing that one, but Georgia Washington certainly caught most of it. Georgia Washington laid out center ring. Jeannie going to the other side, to the other top turnbuckle, as Georgia Washington stands herself up. Whoa, misses with the fist drop. Misjudged the distance by a good margin. Georgia Washington slams Jeannie's head down to the canvas. Georgia moves in. Jeannie with an elbow to the midsection. A knee, a right, a kick, another, whoa, a spin kick that, whoa, psyched out Georgia Washington, but good. Oh, wow, look at this. Winds her up, has her up over the shoulders, spinning Samoan drop, down goes Georgia Washington. The Yankee Rose starting to catch it at the hands of the sexy soul sister of the square circle. Dynamite Jeannie Parker drops a knee right to the chest of Georgia Washington, follows it up with a stomp. The Women's World Champ rounds her up, and here we go, boom, hard right. Robs Georgia Washington again, a series of kicks to the chest. Another, oh my, a set of driving knees right into the head of the Yankee Rose. Jeannie Parker gathers her up again. And there it is, another hard right. Down goes Georgia again. Jeannie Parker going for the cover right away. One, but only just a one. Georgia Washington kicking out of the pin. Jeannie Parker rounds her up. One arm slam. Down goes Georgia again. A stomp to the midsection. Georgia putting the brakes on. Dragon screw takes Jeannie Parker down to the canvas. Georgia misses with the stomp. Delivers a kick to the midsection. Tries for a, whoa, hip toss from Dynamite Jeannie Parker. And Jeannie Parker rebounds off the bottom rope. Misses with the senton. Georgia Washington just a step too fast. Georgia Washington moves in, drives a knee into the head of Jeannie Parker. Georgia rounds her up. Collar and elbow, escorts her to the ropes. Dynamite Jeannie Parker about to catch it here. Look at this. Rope-assisted vertical suplex from the Yankee Rose. Georgia Washington starting to really go to work here on Dynamite Jeannie Parker, knowing full well a win over the Women's World Champ would mean a great deal indeed. And now into a possible submission. Referee Willie Johnson checking it, but no, look at this. Jeannie Parker sweeps the leg, takes Georgia Washington down to the canvas again. Jeannie Dynamite Locked up by Georgia Washington. Up over the shoulders of Georgia Washington. Jeannie Parker with elbows to the side of the head disengages Georgia. Jeannie with a couple of hard shots to the midsection. Whips Georgia to the far corner. And now again driving knees into the midsection of Georgia Washington. Those washboard abs are going to be worn out by the time this one's over. Jeannie Parker persistently tagging the trunk area of Miss Georgia Washington. Followed up with a stomp to the arm. Jeannie Parker rounds her up again, sets her up for another spinning one-arm slam, and certainly nails it. Jeannie Parker with a front carry. Oh my, hangs her up the top rope, down she goes. The Yankee rolls, rounded up to her feet again. Quick counter and a kick to the leg from Georgia Washington. Jeannie Parker counters with a kick to the midsection, spins her around with a hard right, and here we go. Trap squeeze, blocking the flow of blood to the brain of Georgia Washington, and Georgia is fading fast. Her eyes just closed and down she goes. Jeannie Parker rolls her over, covers and hooks the leg. 1, 2, but no. Willie Johnson insisting it was a 2. Jeannie Parker might differ with it. Here we go. Oh man, the split leg drop did not connect. Georgia Washington out of the way just in time. Georgia whipped to the far corner. Jeannie Dynamite delivers a couple of kicks. Turned around into the corner herself. Georgia Washington drapes her leg over the top rope, delivers a kick to the calf. Jeannie Parker comes out of the corner. Georgia Washington whips her out over the top rope and out onto the floor. The Yankee rolls with a slight advantage at the present time. The referee counting Jeannie Parker. Whoa, oh no. He just made Jeannie Parker really mad. Georgia Washington catches a series of shots. Whoa, a battering series of shots from Dynamite Jeannie Parker. Look at this drape between the ropes again. Jeannie Parker driving knees into the midsection of Georgia Washington. Georgia on Dream Street between the ropes. Here we go. A boot to the face and out she goes. Out onto the floor. Jeannie slides out right after her. Gathers up Georgia Washington. Locks her up. Rolls her back inside the ring. The women's world champion starting to press the attack here on the Yankee Rose. Jeannie off the middle rope. Flying punch takes Georgia down. Georgia Washington starting to really catch it at the hands of Jeannie Parker. Another knee, another right, another kick, and whoa, there's that spinning kick again. It drops Georgia Washington down to the canvas. Jeannie Parker quickly making her way to the top turnbuckle. And here it goes, drives the knee into the head of Georgia Washington. Jeannie again going for the cover. 1, 2. Whoa! Oh no, Willie Johnson really catching it from Jeannie Parker. I thought that might have been a 3 myself. Jeannie Dynamite starts driving knees into the chest of Georgia Washington. And man, Georgia Washington taking a battering here at the hands of the women's world champion, Jeannie Parker. Locked up by Georgia Washington, whipped out onto the floor over the top rope again. Georgia Washington, perhaps displaying some smugness here, changes her mind, decides to come on out after Jeannie Parker. Tags her with a right, a chop, another chop, and a one-arm suplex. On the outside as Willie Johnson initiates the count, drives a knee into the head of the women's world champion. Dynamite Jeannie Parker on the defensive here on the outside at the hands of the Yankee Rose. Georgia Washington pulls her towards the timekeeper's area. A kick to the chest, a stomp to the midsection, another kick. Georgia Washington working the legs of Dynamite Jeannie Parker. Jeannie rounded up to her feet, a hard, disrespectful slap, a chop. Oh my, a series of shots, and a drop kick that takes Jeannie Parker down again. Georgia Washington countered by Jeannie Parker with an elbow to the midsection, and a hard one doubled her over really good. A hard shot to the midsection as Jeannie quickly rolls herself back inside the ring. Charges, rolls herself back outside again, going after Georgia once more. A series of shots. Constantly working the trunk area. A hard shot to the midsection from Georgia. Jeannie counters with a right to the head. Another shot to the midsection. Another knee to the midsection. My goodness, Georgia Washington's going to be very sore tomorrow morning. Spinning fist. Takes her down, followed up with a series of stomps and kicks. Willie Johnson continuing to count both ladies. Georgia Washington slips through the back door, delivers a kick to the knee of Jeannie Parker. quickly decides to make her way back inside. Whoa, hey, wait a minute. No, Jeannie Parker says, oh, no, you don't. Get your butt back on out here. Jeannie Dynamite rounds her up. Catches the kick from Georgia. Georgia Washington catches it. Oh, man. Dynamite Jeannie Parker rolls her back inside. Oh, she's mad. Look at her. Rolls herself back into the ring. Figuring out where to go next. Georgia Washington swings and misses. Misses with the drop kick. Catches a right to the back of the head from Jeannie Parker. Jeannie setting it up here. Whoa, whatever it is going to be bad. Whoa, stunner. And down goes Georgia Washington. Jeannie Parker. Whoa, drives an elbow into the leg of the Yankee Rose. Georgia Washington about to catch that split leg drop, and there it is. This could be the end right here. 1, 2, 3. I don't believe it. Georgia Washington, neither can Jeannie Parker. Oh, she is mad. Georgia Washington giving Jeannie Parker a bit more trouble than she had anticipated. Georgia Washington with a right, a slap, and a standing drop kick takes Jeannie Parker down to the canvas. Georgia Washington drags the women's world champion center ring. Taken down with a drop toe hold by Jeannie Parker unexpectedly. Jeannie makes her way to the top turnbuckle. Georgia tags her a right and doesn't even flinch. Whoa! Flying kick takes down Georgia in spite of her attempt to disengage Jeannie from the top turnbuckle. Dynamite Jeannie Parker winds it up. There's the hot kiss at the end of the West Fist. Down goes Georgia Washington again. Rebound up the bottom rope, the senton, and Georgia caught all of it. Georgia Washington rounded back up to her feet. Jeannie Parker rebounds off the ropes, misjudged the distance on that flying punch. Delivers another shot to the midsection. Whips Georgia Washington to the corner. Another kick and more driving knees to the midsection of Georgia Washington. Now followed up with stomps to the midsection. Jeannie Parker genuinely dislikes the Yankee Rose, Georgia Washington. Her reasons are her own, but that's whatever. Georgia Washington being draped between the ropes yet again, more driving knees into the midsection of the Yankee Rose. And there she is, all messed up. Here we go. Jeannie Parker charges. There's a boot to the face. Out goes Georgia Washington onto the floor. The Yankee Rose in big time trouble here at the hands of the women's world champion. Jeannie Parker slides herself to the outside. The referee restarts the count. Georgia rolled back inside the ring. And Jeannie Parker taking a leisurely stroll as she makes her way back in. Georgia Washington right there to greet her. Sets it up. Vertical suplex from the Yankee Rose. Georgia Washington trying to put out the fire here on Jeannie Parker. Tries for the neck breaker. Jeannie says, no, you don't. Turns it into a neck breaker herself, and Georgia caught it. Here's the split leg drop again, but no, Georgia Washington rolling out of the way at the last minute. They lock up. Jeannie up over the shoulders of Georgia Washington. Flapjack face first into the canvas. Dynamite Jeannie Parker being wound up. Oh, this could be disastrous right here. There's that figure eight. The figure eight leg lock. And Georgia Washington arching the back, stretching the legs of Dynamite Jeannie Parker. Referee Willie Johnson checking the women's world champion. Georgia Washington has beaten many opponents with this submission move. Jeannie Parker disengages the legs, tags her a hard right to the face. Jeannie Parker back on her feet, but the damage may already be done. Hard right spins Georgia around, elbow to the face from Georgia Washington. Georgia with Parker up over the shoulders one more time. Another flapjack face first into the canvas. Georgia quickly going for a pin. 1, 2. But again, no, Jeannie Parker kicking out. Georgia Washington rounds up Jeannie Parker. A hard running kick to the face takes her down. Georgia rounds up Jeannie again. A hard slap, and oh, here we go. The Rockets red glare. This could be it. Oh my goodness, here we go. Here's a cover. She hooks the leg. 1, 2, 3. Whoa, Jeannie Parker absolutely refusing to give up here. Will not accept defeat at the hands of the Yankee Rose. Stomp to the midsection from Georgia Washington. Georgia with a submission on Jeannie Parker. Referee Willie Johnson monitoring the situation carefully. Georgia taken down with a sweep by Dynamite Jeannie Parker. Jeannie Parker again working. Oh, Georgia Washington with a very quick counter. Jeannie locks her up, catches a kick to the midsection. Delivers another shot to the midsection. Jeannie Parker with the front cradle on Georgia Washington, hangs her up off the top rope. Jeannie Dynamite with Georgia Washington on the canvas, putting the boot and the knees and anything else he can find to Georgia Washington. Another series of stomps. Jeannie Dynamite makes her way topside. Here we go. Off the top rope, both feet right into the midsection of the Yankee Rose. Georgia Washington gathered up. There's the spinning one-arm slam. Boom goes the Dynamite. Here's the cover. 1, 2, 3, and that is it. Dynamite Jeannie Parker defeats the Yankee Rose by pinfall.
Here's the time, 14 minutes and 52 seconds. And your winner, Dynamite Jeannie Parker.
I'll give Georgia Washington this much. She sure held out a hella long time against Jeannie, stretching this one out, till Jeannie finally gets her down for a 3 count, with less than a minute and a half left on the clock. It may have taken her almost the whole match to do it, but Jeannie Parker shows everyone again why she's a consummate professional and the top female star in this promotion. Man, I thought Jeannie would have to drop a transmission on Georgia to finally stop her. Just straight amazing.
All right, well, the sexy soul sister of the squared circle does it again when we return. Scott Steiner versus Jinder Mahal right after this.
Tex, good to see ya. I've just stopped by tonight to talk over a few things with you and Steve Groves. Let me start with I love what you're both doing with Snarland Rage. Business has never been better.
Well, thank you very much, Colin, but I'm sure that ain't all. What's on your mind?
I had Walt Rothburn in the office, and the man's irritated. Seems your Danielle has been putting it out there. American Powers lost their tag titles because of his, quote, bad officiating. And it's not the first time Heathcote has complained loudly. As to how we do business around here.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I advised her not to do that.
Yeah, well, clearly, her hearing's not so hot when it comes to you, which means she ain't listening to management, top star or not, you'll understand it. The necessity of discipline in any chain of command, yes.
Yeah, I'll get it.
Outstanding. We're in Atlanta Saturday. Kindly inform Miss Heathcote I'd like to see her before Snarl in my office alone. No Patty and no you either, Tim.
What are you gonna do?
Nothing drastic, I promise, but it's time this top star has herself a come-to-Jesus moment.
Tonight's Rage main event. Something extra special and out of the ordinary as the big bad booty daddy Big Papa Pump Scott Steiner gets set to face the modern-day Maharaja Jinder Mahal for the first time ever.
Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's Rage main event is scheduled for one fall with 15-minute time limit. Coming down the aisle from Detroit, Michigan, weighing in at 275 pounds, it's Big Papa Pump, Scott Steiner.
Welcome back, Scott Steiner. It's been about 6 months since we saw him last. He challenged Paul Orndorff for the Mid-Atlantic title and lost. Well, now Scott Steiner's back tonight. Wants to try out the modern-day Maharaja, Jinder Mahal, for himself.
One could make the argument, Myron, that Scott Steiner has decided to face Jinder Mahal because he's 3 and out. The modern-day Maharaja, having lost his previous 3 matches, perhaps giving some encouragement to Big Papa Pump.
I hope that isn't his reason, because that doesn't really track for me. Scott Steiner may be brash, maybe a little arrogant, and yeah, really bad in mathematics, but I can't see Big Papa Pump in the role of a coward. It's just not in his nature.
I think you're right, Christy. Scott Steiner never does anything out of fear. He does these things because he's not smart.
He also boasts the loudest, most annoying theme song in all of wrestling.
Well, Donnie, it's like you said. Jinder Mahal has dropped his last 3 matches, has not looked very good after a very impressive start. Now he's come back after like a week, 2 weeks away, hopefully with a reset. We're going to have to see how he does against Scott Steiner, who outweighs him, outpowers him. I don't know if there's going to be a 4th loss or not.
I'm gonna say it again, Myron baby.
Say what again?
On this week's bookings, for stars, for our Mr. Schimmelman, no way can this main event be anything but banging. Wonder if Jinder's time away will be a help or a hindrance.
Well, we're about to find out, Christy.
We most certainly are Jinder Mahal. Certainly looking ready to go here against Scott Steiner. Once again, another first-time encounter, and what a main event. Big Papa Pump and the modern-day Maharaja, Willie Johnson, rings the bell. Off we go. Jinder Mahal winds up the arms. Scott Steiner counters with a kick and a right, and a kick to the midsection. A clubbing overhand right takes Jinder Mahal down to the canvas. Jinder Mahal slams Scott Steiner down, follows it up with a stomp. Jinder Mahal with a down Scott Steiner. Well, excuse me, Scott Steiner right back up on his feet, takes him right down to the canvas. Jinder Mahal suddenly finds himself on the wrong side of the tracks. A kick to the head, and wow, this one's going back and forth already. Within the first 30 seconds, this one's pretty heated. Jinder Mahal rounds up Scott Steiner. Steiner with a kick, a couple of shots, another kick, and another clubbing overhand right that takes Jinder Mahal down. Mahal right back up again. Wow, how about this? Scott Steiner catches a neck breaker from Jinder Mahal. Jinder making his way to the top turnbuckle. Here's Scott Steiner laid out. Here's an elbow drop right across the chest of the big bad booty daddy. Scott Steiner catches a stomp to the arm. Jinder Mahal liked it so much he's going to do it a second time. Follows it up with a stomp and a kick. Scott Steiner suddenly on the defensive again. A kick to the midsection from Jinder Mahal. A series of shots and down. What a hard right took Scott Steiner down. Jinder Mahal lines up the arm. Look at this submission here. Referee Willie Johnson checking things out. Scott Steiner finds his way out. Scott Steiner with Jinder Mahal down on the canvas now. The big bad booty daddy catches an elbow to the midsection from Jinder Mahal. A kick. And a series of shots. Oh, another kick to the midsection. Jinder Mahal carrying Scott Steiner halfway across down front cradle. Hangs him up off the top rope. Mahal going for an immediate cover. 1, 2, and almost a 3, but not quite. Scott Steiner kicking out of the pin. Jinder Mahal making his way to the top turnbuckle. Scott Steiner slowly making his way back up to a standing position. Here we go. Oh, Jinder Mahal misses the mark by just a couple of inches. Goes back to work delivering shots. Scott Steiner with elbows to the midsection of the modern-day Maharaja. Locks up Jinder Mahal. The power of Scott Steiner, look at this. Military press on Jinder Mahal, just lets him fall to the canvas, allowing gravity to do the work. Jinder Mahal counters with a kick, gets up to a standing position again. Another series of shots to Scott Steiner. Scott Steiner counters, finds his way off the ropes. Side suplex takes Jinder Mahal down. Scott Steiner cranking the head and neck of Jinder Mahal. And Scott Steiner certainly has demonstrated some resilience in this match. He has endured quite a bit of punishment already. Elbow drop right to the chest of Jinder Mahal. Steiner rounds up Jinder. Jinder counters with a right. Locks up Scott Steiner, a knee to the midsection. Steiner with a right. And a beautiful takedown of Jinder Mahal. A stomp to the head. Scott Steiner drives a knee into the head of Jinder Mahal. Jinder Mahal finding himself, look at this, Scott Steiner grinding and absolutely gouging the eyes of Jinder Mahal. Jinder Mahal back up on his feet. And he's gouging, in retaliation, the eyes of Scott Steiner. Jinder Mahal dragging Big Papa Pump as close to middle's ring as he can get him stomped to the midsection. And here we go. Jinder Mahal calling for it. Here's the camel clutch. The distant cousin of the Steiner recliner, as it were. Willie Johnson checking Scott Steiner. Oh my. Jinder Mahal's got it locked in, really. He is just bending Scott Steiner like a bow. Jinder Mahal covers. This could be it. One. No! Only a one. Scott Steiner quickly finding his way out of that pin. But Jinder Mahal definitely stalking Scott Steiner here. Goes behind, and here we go. He's setting up for the submission, but Scott Steiner says, no, you don't. Kick to the midsection from Jinder Mahal. Scott Steiner misses his grapple, winds up catching a series of lefts and rights and chops and kicks and everything in the book. There's another kick to the midsection. And whoa, what a suplex from Jinder Mahal. Scott Steiner laid out center ring. Here comes Jinder. Big time elbow across the chest. Jinder Mahal covers again. 1, 2, and whoa! Jinder Mahal taking Willie Johnson to task for his counting. A stomp to the chest of Scott Steiner. Another kick to the chest. Steiner back up on his feet, charges, takes him down with a shoulder tackle. Big Papa Pump drops the elbow with authority on the chest of Jinder Mahal. Hard right hands to the head of the modern-day Maharaja. And this match has certainly gone back and forth quite a bit so far. The eyes of Jinder Mahal being gouged again by Scott Steiner. This match, wow. Another quick counter from Jinder Mahal, who drives the knee of Scott Steiner into the canvas. Scott Steiner evades. Jinder Mahal evades. Jinder goes behind, locks up Scott Steiner. Has him up over the shoulder. Scott Steiner counters with a chop block, takes down Jinder Mahal center ring. And here we go. A battle of submissions. The Steiner recliner being employed by Scott Steiner. Jinder Mahal center ring. Nowhere he can go. Nothing he can do. Willie Johnson checking on the modern day Maharaja. Scott Steiner releases the hold. This could be the end here. Steiner covers, hooks the leg. 1, 2. And oh man. Jinder Mahal forcefully getting that shoulder up. Wanted the referee to see that for sure. Scott Steiner rounds him up. Belly to belly suplex, and whoa. Down goes Jinder Mahal. A stomp to the midsection. Tries for the Steiner recliner a second time. Jinder Mahal says, I'd rather not if you don't mind. Whips Scott Steiner to the far corner. A kick to the midsection. And a rake of the eyes across the top rope. Whoa, this one's gotten intense. Scott Steiner slam head first into the canvas. Jinder Mahal again stomps the arm of Scott Steiner. Gathers him up. Collar and elbow and turns him around. Whoa, neck breaker. Center ring. Scott Steiner suddenly on the receiving end of some bad business here. Jinder Mahal just going all kinds of off. Sets him up big time neck breaker drop. Jinder Mahal looks like he's going to make his way to the top turnbuckle in the far corner. Scott Steiner slowly making his way to his feet. And here comes Jinder Mahal. Misses with the flying shoulder. Well now. Jinder Mahal has to find a new strategy here. And uh-oh, here we go. Scott Steiner avoiding the submission yet again. A hard right to the head of Jinder Mahal. And here we go. What a pump handle slam from Scott Steiner, who again drops the elbow on the chest of Jinder Mahal. Jinder rounded up to a standing position again. A hard right and another spins him around from Scott Steiner. And a full Nelson bomb. And once more, there's that elbow drop across the chest, and he's going for the pit, but no, too close to the rope. The long legs of Jinder Mahal saving him from that one. But Scott Steiner now up on the middle rope as Jinder Mahal stands himself up. Double axe handle certainly finds the mark that time. Jinder Mahal charges, misses with the jumping neck breaker, catches a kick to the chest from Scott Steiner. And look at this. A deadlift military press from the big bad booty daddy. And down comes Jinder Mahal crashing. Oh, it sounded like a sack of spuds. A kick to the leg of Jinder Mahal. Big Papa Pump Nails him with a right. Locks up Jinder. Up over the shoulder we go. Hung up over the top rope. Jinder Mahal on the canvas again. Scott Steiner quickly rounds him up. Goes for the belly-to-belly and nails it. Jinder Mahal finding himself in some serious trouble at this point. And this match has gone on for quite some time now. Scott Steiner covered. 1, 2, and again. I don't believe it. Jinder Mahal still in there punching. Catching stomps to the head from Scott Steiner. A kick to the midsection from Jinder and a kick to the face. For Scott Steiner. Jinder Mahal escorts him center ring. Follows it up with a stomp to the midsection. And once more here we go again. The camel clutch applied to Big Papa Pump with nowhere to go. No means of egress. And that's it. He has just tapped out. The referee rings the bell. Jinder Mahal defeating Scott Steiner by submission.
Here's the time, 9 minutes and 54 seconds. Your winner by tap out, Jinder Mahal.
Alright fans, that puts another edition of RWL Rage into the books. We thank all of you, as always, for joining us and for being part of the RWL family. And coming up next, on Saturday, May 24th, RWL Snarl from Atlanta, Georgia. For all of us here, Christy, Myron, and myself, Don Hickson, thank you, good night, and we will see you next time at ringside. Good night, everybody.